Hello, puppies and kittens. Welcome to another episode of The Pearl of Great Price, where we have moved up to Abraham 4. And we're really excited to find out if the butler did it. Bryce, do you have any like a intro for?
No, I mean, I think we're going to be able to crush through the rest of Abraham today. And then I think maybe we'll have time to get through the one New Testament translation that's in here. So that should be pretty fun. But we'll see. We'll see how the day goes. But I mean,
Okay, well,
all the
maybe I
stuff
was
that applied
misinformed.
from the last episode of Book of Abraham stuff, that all still applies. That's, we're still reading from the papyrus scrolls that Joseph translated into the Book of Abraham.
I thought there were many chapters had Father Abraham, but maybe I'm thinking about something else. Okay. All right. And so who
Me.
with
What did you expect?
By the way, hi, Tomer and Gazalem.
Yes.
Hey, everybody.
Nice to meet you.
Tomer's going to have so much fun with this stuff. Right off the bat, it gets really nuts here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we get some actual like temple ceremony, endowment ceremony stuff in this as well. With they will go down.
Okay.
All right, well, let's hear it.
Sure.
And Tomer, do give it the reverence that it deserves.
Sure thing. And then the Lord said, "Let us go down." And they went down. At the beginning, and they, that is the gods, organized and formed the heavens and the earth. Gods?
No, I actually wore my polytheism shirt. I don't know if you could see it, but it says, why only believe in just one imaginary friend?
Very nice. Very nice. Yep. This is so Joseph was tampering with this idea of God versus gods, multiple gods, and a pantheon or a council of gods that he would later label it as. This is the first scriptural note that we have that Joseph is writing gods from his own brain.
So Mormons are polytheists.
Yes. An infinite regression.
Interesting. And the earth, after it was formed, was empty and desolate, because they had not formed anything but the earth. And darkness reigned upon the face of the deep, and the spirit of the gods was brooding upon the face of the waters.
Whoa.
So this is following Genesis 1, obviously. And it reads Elohim as the plural for God.
Yes.
Okay.
Which also in Mormonism, Elohim is like the super secret like temple name for God, and that's like, it's only ever spoken in like believing Mormon families in like hushed terms, like, oh, we know the actual name of God. It's like, no, that's Hebrew plural of El. Like it's like you didn't come up with this word, all right, guys?
Especially fundamentalists, because they see it as the plurality of God's wives. And so you have like this whole council of God and multiples.
And they, the gods, said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And they, the gods, comprehended the light, for it was bright. What comprehended the light? What does that mean?
I comprehend light.
Oh, jeez.
Which is also kind of strange too. Like this is, at least the Book of Abraham has like enough craziness in it that it can lend itself to like exposition and discussion. And it's like, wait, so the gods said, "Let there be light," but they didn't create the light. They just said, "Let there be light," and then the light was there, and then they had to comprehend it after there was light. So does the light actually come from the gods? Do they command the light, or is the light pre-existing and they just who knows? Who knows? This is crazy fundamental scripture right here.
Was comprehending the light preceded by some time of beard stroking to contemplate the light?
I'm sure. Like, let's see here.
These are Mormon gods, clean shaven. So no.
Yeah.
So not a lot of deep thought.
Yeah.
maybe maybe chin stroking.
Shut
Hmm.
up.
Okay. And the gods called the light day, and the darkness they called night, capitalized. And it came to pass that from the evening until morning they called night, not capitalized. And from the morning until the evening they called day, not capitalized. And
Whoa.
this was the first or the beginning of that which they called day and night. Did you get that?
Just in case you don't understand how, day and night cycles work. That's how it works.
Yeah. And the gods also said, let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and it shall divide the waters from the waters. And
It's like yeah, it's like an atomic bomb. You divide the water from the water and then it explodes. It's crazy.
I mean, I think that it is in Genesis, right? It's basically like talking about the water, quote unquote, in the heavens and the water in the earth, i.e., the seas.
Oh, I thought that was just like Joe making a mistake about dividing the waters from the land. So maybe I'm
No,
mistaken.
no, it is in where is exactly? Yeah,
I
in
thought
verse 7. Yeah, verse 6. Um yeah, let there be an expanse in the midst of the water that it may separate water from water.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
cold
And
And
fusion.
how do you separate water from water?
Well, if you don't,
uh
it's all brackish, and nobody likes that.
With a meat cleaver.
with I'll tell you how, with the firmament you do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with jingly
And
keys.
and the gods ordered the expanse so that it divided the waters which were under the expanse from the waters which were above the expanse. And
Oh,
it was so, even as they ordered. And the gods called the expanse heaven. And it came to pass that it was
Woohoo!
from evening until morning that they called night. And it came to pass that it was from morning until evening that they called day. And this was the second time that they called night and day.
That was a
in
double
case you
shotter.
forgot, that whole day-night cycle thing. I know it's a really difficult concept. We're just gonna reiterate it here.
Uh,
And like
I
this is
mean,
also
we've
important. No, go ahead.
how many times have we already gone through Genesis so far in the Pearl of Great Prize here? This is like the third or fourth account, right? It's creation
Third,
story.
yeah. Well, and this is also important too, because like this is basically the endowment ceremony. When you do the endowment, you are just acting out the creation narrative, and you kind of embody Adam and Eve essentially through the creation narrative. So like you sit down to watch a video and it goes through all the 7 days of creation and like what happens on each of those days, and then it's later on in the ceremony once you get to Adam and Eve on earth, and then that's when you act out and like you put on the apron and like you do the signals and tokens and handshakes and all the crazy shit. But like this is the beginning of the endowment, is you sit and watch a movie about the creation myth, and this is just a creation myth. Like there's a lot of language right here that's in this scripture that is exactly used in the endowment ceremony itself, even though the endowment ceremony is not actually ever written down by church leaders.
Secret.
I'm wondering about this endowment ceremony. Just how much can they do for your endowment? I mean, do they add inches, or can, can they at least add a bit of girth?
You don't find that out till you get into the afterlife.
To make
uh,
good men better.
yeah. Okay. And the gods ordered, saying, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the earth come up dry. And it was so as they ordered. And the gods pronounced the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters pronounced they great waters. And the
Okay, so
gods,
these are the gods.
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And the way that this is done in the endowment ceremony itself is that God, Elohim, as he's, singularly in like inexplicably, Elohim is a singular individual in the endowment ceremony. He commands Jehovah, Michael, and Peter, I believe, right, to go. Like he tells them to go down and do all of these things, and then they come back.
It's
And they say,
it's just only Michael. It's only Michael and Jehovah.
Michael and Jehovah. Okay, so I haven't done it myself, right? So that should be clear at this point. So yeah, it's Michael, Jehovah, God, Elohim commands them to go down and do the things of like separating the waters from the waters and the waters from the earth, and like populating them plants and fauna and everything like that. God says, he commands them to go down, and then they say, we will go down, and they go down to earth. They do all the things, and then they come back to Elohim and they report that it is done. And then Elohim sends them on the next day to do the next part of the creation narrative. And they say, we will go down. And they go down and do the thing. They come back and report. So that's, we just like what we're reading right here. It's a little bit more expanded and protracted in the endowment ceremony itself, but that's essentially what we're consuming right now.
Okay.
And
I'm just a little mystified on the pantheon here.
So not only that, if you're mystified, if you get really fundamental on it, especially according to Brigham Young, is that is that Michael is God and the only God that we have to answer to. And when Michael came upon the earth to get a body, he became Adam, and so Adam is our God.
I wonder if they thought about that when they made that movie with what the fuck was his name? The Saturday Night Fever guy who played
John
Michael.
Travolta.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, I'll continue. And the god, And the god said, "Let us prepare the earth to bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, the fruit tree yielding fruit, after his kind, whose seed in itself yieldeth its own likeness upon the earth." And it was so, even as they ordered.
Take that,
And-
Darwinists.
Let
Mhm.
prepare the earth to bring forth grass.
Every kind of good herb.
Yielding seed,
This-
man.
I
mean-
this herb has way too much seed in it, yo.
The fruit yielding fruit after its kind, and whose seed is in itself yieldeth its own likeness upon the earth. And it was so, I mean, even as they
Dank.
ordered, man.
Yeah. And the gods organized the earth to bring forth grass from its own seed, and the herb to bring forth herb from its own seed, yielding seed after his kind, and the earth to bring forth the tree from its own seed, yielding fruit, whose seed could only bring forth the same in itself, after his kind. And the gods saw that they were obeyed. They were obeyed.
They were obeyed.
Now you know why
Agreed
there's kinds,
obeys.
Aaron. I know that's a big thing with you. How about the kinds? Now you know,
Yeah.
because God
Which-
spoke it. The God spoke it.
You got to appreciate Elohim's intelligence here and just general wisdom, because if we're all humans here and we're, planting apple trees and fucking oranges spring out of it, we're going to be like, what is happening? Why did this apple tree just give birth to a purple bunny? What is going on here? So, it's a good thing, God had the foresight to make things reproduce after their own kind.
My grandpa had a cool cherry tree where he grafted on 8 different types of cherries onto one tree, and so it had like white
cool.
cherries and black cherries and red cherries. Yeah, it was awesome.
Very cool.
Okay, 13. And it came to pass that they numbered the days. From the evening until the morning they called night. And it came to pass from the morning until the evening they called day. And it was the third time.
Yeah, I love that.
If you compare it to the original Hebrew, the original Hebrew is like 6 6 words. And there was morning, and there was evening, and there was morning a third day.
Tomer,
Like-
this is Reformed Hebrew. Getting
Hebrew or
through their head.
Egyptian?
No,
Yeah.
Hebrew. It must be.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Why?
Okay.
I don't have an answer.
It's
to that.
either
I'm sure we can
reformed
come up with some
Hebrew or
reason.
it's deformed Egyptian. I forget exactly where we are.
Uh,
Well,
yeah.
don't they say that Hebrew is actually deformed Adamic or whatever?
Uh-huh.
Who is they?
Mhm. The shadow people. Never mind. And the gods organized the lights in the expanse of the heaven and caused them to divide the day from the night and organized them to be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years.
Unless
So
you're on
that's
the
a
equator.
crazy that's a crazy complication because the way that reads is that the stars had to be organized in their location in order for us humans living on Earth in order to know the seasons and the days and the years. So it's like if you consider this on the cosmological scale, like the Earth was formed by Elohim, acting through his emissaries Jehovah and Michael, and they had to organize the constellations so that farmers would know when to plant their alfalfa. It really just, it's a very earth forward view of cosmology. Just pointing that out, I think.
I wonder, did they plant their alfalfa near their buckwheat?
As long as it's not in the same field, then they're good.
Okay.
Well, and it's like David Fitzgerald said a few weeks ago. It's like how did they go skip the whole hunter-gatherer thing and automatically you're jumping right into agriculture?
Good question.
And organized them to be for lights in the expanse of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And the gods organized the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. With the lesser night they set the stars also.
I love that. It's like we have the greater light and the lesser light. That's the sun and the moon. Oh yeah, and a lesser light, which is the stars. Shit, which are actually a whole bunch of like stars. Like the sun is a star, which are infinitely more bright than the sun. It's never mind. Don't think about the science of it. No,
Yeah,
Jinglies.
the original Hebrew just says that the lesser light for the governing of the night, which is the moon, and the stars. I mean, the stars are not part of the lesser light.
Yeah. Well, they are in Mormonism, and they are in Masonry, and in like plenty of esoteric like philosophies of the time. The like ranking the sun, the moon, and the stars like according to the brilliance for like human observers. But now we know that stars, like our sun, is a star, and lots of stars put together is way brighter than the sun itself.
Well, and it is weird because he does use that triple, the getting lesser and lesser light, but at the same time he knows that stars are suns because he talks about Kolob and the star nearest to the sun, to the planet of gods and everything. So Joseph Smith knows that stars are suns. So yeah, it's like you were saying, Bryce. How do you get these really bright stars? Oh, don't think about it too hard.
Planet of the gods. Is that what Gazalem just said?
Planet where God lives.
Planet
is
of the
Kolob.
gods.
Yep.
That sounds like
nearest
we should go back to the 1950s and make that movie because that would have sold really well back then.
They made it in the 70s.
Maybe
An animated flick, and it was the church did not like it.
Uh-huh. And verse 18. No, sorry, verse 17. And the gods set them in the expanse of the heavens to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to cause to divide the light from the darkness. And the gods watched those things which they had ordered until they obeyed.
Whoa.
Big brother God. That is Mormon theology right there. Is like, I'm gonna give you a command, and I'm just gonna sit here and watch you not masturbate until you die to make sure that you are following my commandments. That's very Mormon.
Wow.
I mean, the original reading is to dominate the day and the night and to separate light from darkness, and God saw that this was good. So, yeah, he changed it.
Yeah, some alterations. But it's also funny too that we have like this is claimed to be a papyri written by Abraham himself that Joseph Smith translated into the English by the gift and power of God, right? And at the same time, it's like we clearly identify the source material is the fucking Old Testament. Like we know what he was plagiarizing and modifying. We know the exact words and the exact source material he's working with. It's funny in my mind.
That was just the stuff that got passed on and stayed corrected or whatever.
That's right.
You should have heard Abraham. Is all Abraham's all. You should have heard what God told me last night. The gods came down and were. I mean, this straight out of the mouth of Abraham.
That's right.
Abraham. Yeah.
Abraham.
Yeah. And it came to pass that it was from evening until morning that it was night. And it came to pass that it was from morning.
Wait, I just want to make sure I understand this. It came to pass that it was from evening till morning, it was night. Is that what you just really read?
Yeah. In case the 3 times that this concept was, conveyed before was not clear enough, when it's dark, it's night. When it's light, it's day.
Evening.
That reminds me.
It's night.
That reminds me of Steve Martin way back when. He says, a day without sunshine is like night.
That's exactly what it said right there.
There you go.
Yeah. And it came to pass that it was from morning until evening that it was day. And it was the 4th time. And the God said, let us prepare the waters to bring forth abundantly the moving creatures that have life.
Whoa.
Bring forth abundantly the moving. Okay. And the fowl, that they may fly above the earth in the open expanse of heaven. And the gods prepared the waters that they might bring forth great whales, and every living creature that moveth, which the waters were to bring forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after their kind. And the gods saw that they would be obeyed, and that their plan was good.
All right, I'm having some trouble here.
Future tense.
1, help me out. Why are we now talking about multiple gods? And 2, why are we copying again Genesis 1 into the same book? Didn't we just cover this like a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah.
But it was only one God then.
That
right?
was Enoch. That was Enoch's version, and now this is Abraham's version, and we've had Moses' version. So those are
Is there a discrepancy between Enoch
Is that right?
talking about one God and now this
Yes.
one talking about a pantheon, like there's a union of gods?
And it's also important to note that there is a 10-year break between the book of Moses that we read before, that was the Genesis narrative that was captured from like the first person perspective of Elohim, that also had the prophecies of Enoch in it. That was Moses 1 through 8, right? To the book of Abraham. So it's 1832 published versus 1842 publishing. So in that 10-year period of time, Joseph Smith had evolved his own personal theology to be a council of gods instead of a Trinitarian view of God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit.
He started studying Kabbalah, and they had the School of Prophets and things. And so once he started studying all the Hebrew and these deep dives into this stuff, he's like, whoa, it's just like Bryce was saying earlier, they find out that Elohim is a plural word, and it's like, holy shit, Elohim is a bunch of gods. That means
Yeah. But converting the gods from the one sole God to like an entire congress of gods makes it actually absolutely a lot more sense.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and it also fits within the Mormon theology that like as God is, we, or as we are, God once was, as God is, we may become. that infinite consistent like maturation of human men into becoming gods. Like this fits within the entire locus of Mormon theology, and like its view of how humans, like the entire existence of humans, is to become gods, to be admitted into the council of gods.
Is this a
yeah.
contradiction or an
Oh
embellishment?
yeah. No. This is a total contradiction between the Book of Moses and the Book of Abraham, or the Book of Mormon, versus the Book of Abraham that we're reading right now. There's the Trinitarian view and concept of deity that is the Book of Moses and the Book of Mormon, and now the Book of Abraham, which was very late in Joseph's ministry, after a more than 10-year gap from when those previous books were published to now this was published. He had evolved his own theology to be polytheistic and an infinite regression of gods. And that is the theology that informs the Book of Abraham that we're reading now. So, like we read the Genesis narrative from God's perspective in the Book of Moses. Now we're reading the Genesis perspective, from the perspective of the council of gods. And they are just commanding their patrons, be that in this case Jehovah and Michael, to go down and form the planets with the power of the priesthood.
That's what made it so.
If we were really reading Genesis from God's perspective, then shut up, dog. It really ought to start with the first sentence. My God, I'm bored.
Yeah.
I was gonna say though, that is why when Bryce and we were reading the Book of Mormon, it was so frustrating, because it's like once you know the full story, that it's like by the 40s, and Joseph Smith has completely changed it. He didn't even hardly ever go back to the Book of Mormon after it was published. He didn't really preach about it or talk about it much, and he completely reevaluated his whole entire concept of things by this point. And so it's funny to read all that old Book of Mormon stuff and just be like, holy crap, what's with this Trinitarian type of stuff that's showing up, when that's not what most Mormons believe at all,
Yeah. And universalism too, right? Like this right here is like very much not universalist, but the Book of Mormon has little tendencies of universalism and a little commentary on anti-universalism of the time, which is, everybody is saved just by virtue of being born a human. You are saved by the grace of Jesus Christ. So like that theme is throughout the pages of the Book of Mormon, and there is a little commentary on anti-universalism. This is very different from that, right? This is an entire council of gods. This is a far evolved theology. Like we're looking at 12 years of Joseph Smith's ministry, that he had been running it from 1830 when the Book of Mormon was published to 1842 when the Book of Abraham was published. He had a lot of time to evolve his understanding, to make friends with people who are from many different walks of life and different philosophies, and spend a lot of time in conversation with those individuals, and like studying Hebrew and Kabbalah and everything too. Like Joseph expanded his mind a lot from the Book of Mormon to the Book of Abraham. And, we're just seeing that. That's what we're discussing right now.
It would be so interesting to see if he wasn't murdered, how much further he would have went, because it was getting really wacko.
Yeah. The King Follett Discourse was a theological treatise that he provided at a funeral of a person named King Follett in April of 1844, and he was assassinated in June of that same year. And like the King Follett Discourse is widely regarded as like the most expansive version of Joseph's theology and like the most esoteric Mormon stuff. And, had he been allowed to make a speech in 1845, 46, 50, 55, 60, who knows where his theology would have gone and what other revelations he would have brought out.
Yeah, that's what I find fascinating about this, because the guy had to know that he was absolutely full of shit, that he was just creating this whole huge scam. It would seem,
Agreed.
but based on the early evidence. But when he then goes on to trying to learn these other languages and everything, after he's already firmly established his scam, I mean, it's in place. Why then go to try to learning Hebrew and all of it? I mean, dude, you've accomplished your fucking goal. Why would you continue doing this unless somehow you've convinced yourself of your own bullshit?
His goal's to become the king of the world.
Well, and like think of the sense of camaraderie that is created when you and your small group of best friends are all engaging in esoteric exploration together, right? Like, so Joseph Smith stands as an island, and that's how he's viewed so many times. But it's important to acknowledge how much he did what he did for the approval and the adulation of the people around him that he curried as friends and confidants, right? So a bunch of dudes getting together and talking theology is fun and all, but when you have some dude up there to lead the instruction to facilitate deeper conversations, then that is a bonding experience for everybody in that room. And when the men are learning Hebrew and they're reading Torah and the old Hebrew of the Old Testament in order to see like where the translation errors are and like what the real theology is at the time, and like when they're engaging in these esoteric fields of study, it's a bonding experience. And mostly the vast majority of people who engaged in this is the school of the prophets, as it's known, this Hebrew learning class. The vast majority of them remained faithful even after Joseph Smith's death to the core fundamentals of Mormonism. So, there is a bit of him, I think you can make a reasonable argument that he bought his own bullshit after a while, and that I generally disagree with. But I think we also should not discount like the sense of like camaraderie and friendship and fraternity that was created in making these insular groups of super tight-knit men who all are engaged in studying something new that none of them really know about, but all of them want to explore, all of them want to know more about, because it's all theology. They want to know more theology. They want to know more about the nature of God.
And the more things they discover, the more they could be like, oh, wow, we really do have the true answers and stuff here. Elohim really is a council of gods rather than just one person. It shows it in the preview. It shows it because it's a plural name,
Yeah,
They
exactly.
get getting off on that stuff.
I'll continue.
Please.
Yeah. Okay, verse 22. And the gods said, we will bless them and cause them to be fruitful and multiply and fill the waters in the seas, all great waters, and cause the fowl to multiply in the earth.
Which,
And
by
it
the
came,
way, take that again, Darwinists. We have the fish in the sea and the fowls in the air. That whole transitory phase of being on land before going airborne. Yeah. Who needs that? None of that shit. No, we got fish and we got fowls of the air.
And the birds are fucking in the sky. They're like,
That's right.
I think you're on mute. Aaron, are you talking or joking?
yeah,
I don't know.
Please
I
don't
think he's eating. Yeah, maybe that's it.
Your mouthful.
Yeah. Okay. 23. Yeah. And it came to pass that it was from evening until morning that they called night. And it came to pass that it was from morning until evening that they called day. And
Okay.
it was the fifth time.
Are you
And
getting it yet, reader?
yeah,
Do you know how this whole day-night bullshit works?
yeah.
Oh my word.
And the gods prepared the earth to bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping things, and beasts of the earth after their kind. And it was so, as they had said. And the gods organized the earth to bring forth the beasts after their kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after its kind. And the gods
But
saw they would
due to an
obey.
administrative error, they filled the skies, the expanse of the firmament, with cattle, which 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 then rained down upon the earth.
It's raining cats and dogs in here.
Except the cow that jumped over the moon.
Mhm.
And birds fucking in the sky.
Uh. And the gods took counsel among themselves and said, "Let us go down and form man in our image, after our likeness. And we will give them dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth." So the gods went down to organize man in their own image. In the image of the gods to form they him, male and female to form they them. Huh.
So
And-
they form male, females, and the they thems.
Yeah.
That's right.
And the gods
Damn
said,
pronouns.
yeah, damn
That's
pronouns.
confusing.
Yeah.
I'm a they
And the-
them, by the way, everybody.
Hmm.
They them.
And the gods said, "We will bless them." And the gods said, "We will cause them to be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and to have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth." And the gods said, "Behold, we will give them every herb bearing seed that shall come upon the face of all the earth, and every tree which shall have fruit upon it. Yeah, the fruit of the tree yielding seed, to them we will give it. It shall be for their meat."
Nice. Vegetarians. Woo-hoo.
Yeah, and right in the middle of the garden, he put durian
Oh man.
and didn't even warn anybody.
I promise it tastes good though.
Who the fuck left a corpse flower here? Why do we need this thing?
And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, behold, we will give them life, and also we will give to them every green herb for meat, and all these things shall be thus organized.
Green herb is the best herb.
Yeah.
It's like meat for the soul.
Just like
They had those
KFC ordered.
all those infusion restaurants are all popular now, and they were all doing that back in Adam's day, infusing everybody. Everything.
Yeah. Adam was
Got a couple
juicer
comments to
for
read.
sure.
Matt White says, Bryce, but then the light reflected off Venus is brighter than light radiated from stars, hence visible before the stars as night falls / after the stars in the morning. Light bringer.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
All hail
Lucifer.
Venus. Yeah. No, Venus. There we go. Yeah.
The morning star.
And then Kyler Ashby says, there's shows about uncovering Mormon archaeological findings on Brigham Young University TV. Not sure if it's still going on. Would R and Rob be interested in reviewing such a show and ripping it apart?
Oh my God. Yes, please. Please, please, please.
I'm kind of inclined to say yay.
BYU TV archaeology special. Yes.
I got the Book of
Somebody
Mormon
give me a link.
guidebook, and it even has a picture of what the actual barges look like and stuff.
Barges.
The submarines.
Submarine barges. Oh yes, I love it.
Uh, All the gods said, "We will do everything that we have said, and organize them. And behold, they shall be very obedient." And it came to pass that it was from evening until morning they called night. And it came to pass that it was from morning until evening that they called day. And they numbered the sixth time.
Whoa, 6 of those night and
So
days.
this is like a
with
really
that.
complicated process or a complicated concept. So you got to really wrap your head around it. When shit gets dark and you can't see anything, we're going to call that night. But then you notice every 12 hours or so, it kind of gets real bright and you can see things real easy, we're going to call that day.
We're
Unless you're
gods.
unless you're in Oslo, and then it depends on what time of the year it is. It could be night all the fucking time.
Yeah, have you been to Oslo?
I would love to, but no.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, waking up at 3:00 in the morning because it's dawn, that's weird.
Watch the sun go across the sky.
Yeah,
Sounds like
no,
you and Abraham got a bone to pick with each other here.
it's like it's 11:00 at night and the sun is still up. How the fuck am I gonna go to sleep? But then 3:00 in the morning, the sun rises again. The fuck is this about? And then going
Damn
to
Norway
Iceland,
just needs to follow the Book of Abraham.
going to Iceland in February was much the same thing. When the sun
Wow.
goes down at 3:20 p.m. and it just rose at 10:40. So we've got what, 4.5 hours. Yep.
But it was called that in between space was called night.
Okay, so we're moving on to chapter 5.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, let
It's
me
a
dive
short
into
one.
this. And thus we will finish the heavens and the earth and all of the hosts of them. And the gods said among themselves, on the 7th time we will end our work which we have counseled, and we will rest on the 7th time from all our work which we have counseled.
Damn
Can I
union
get a second?
workers.
Second? Yes? All in favor? Say aye. Okay. And the gods concluded upon the 7th time, because that on the 7th time they would rest from all their works, which they, the God, counseled among themselves to form.
Did you
All
have
agreed,
gods
adjourned, and sanctified
Thursday.
it.
Yeah.
And thus were their decisions at the time that they counseled among themselves to form the heavens and the earth. We're all in agreement? Yes, yes.
Yeah,
all in
we're
favor,
great.
say aye.
We're really great. Look at
Raise
that
your
Earth.
hand to the
How great is that
square.
Earth?
And the gods came down and formed the generations of the heavens of the earth when they were formed the day that the gods formed the earth and the heavens.
So that's important. So the generations,
Wait,
right?
wait,
So
it's
that,
not important. It's redundant.
no, it's not
They
redundant.
did the
It's
thing when they did
generation.
the thing.
The generations, that's specifically the human generations. So like they formed all of the spirit babies. This is talking about the premortal existence. They formed all of the spirit babies during that 6-day creation narrative. That's when all of the god of the planet is fucking into his wife, all of the spiritual wives, all of the spirit children that will get bodies when they come down to that earth. So it's like you got the 7 days when they're creating the things, but the 7 nights is when God and heavenly mothers go about creating all the spirit children that will become bodies. God's fucking.
Jimmy.
That's Mormon theology. God's fucking.
Can you hear me, Jimmy? I'm up here, Jimmy. Sorry, only Saturday Warrior people will understand that.
Oh, that creeps me the fuck out.
They literally, like, the pre-existence is like an airport waiting to go onto the earth, and everybody's waiting and so remember what you promised, Jimmy, here in the pre-existence, that you would hold your covenants upon the earth.
Yeah, I remember when I
messed
was a little kid and my mother told me that when we were in heaven, before we get our bodies, that we choose our parents. And my parents were at that time already divorced. So I was already confused. And I was trying to figure out, how is it, do we just choose the people who look most like us?
That's a pretty smart observation, though.
Yeah.
According to all that which they had concerned, every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew, for the gods had not caused it to rain upon the earth when they counseled to do them, and had not formed a man to till the ground.
Yeah, you know what? I've done that before where I like come back from vacation. I was like, fuck, nobody watered all the plants. No, half of them are dead.
I forgot to form a
So
man
true.
to water all my plants before I went to
Goddamn.
Hawaii. But there went up a mist from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground. And you wonder how it happened. Well, pull my finger, I'll show you. And the gods formed man from the dust of the ground. From a golem spell, they made a bunch of mud, breathed into it, and said abracadabra, and then it was alive. And they took his spirit, that is, the man's spirit,
That
and
is.
put it into him. It is, which kind of looks like a CPR routine. It looks like a French kiss at first, except that you're inflating the golem.
Mm-hmm.
And then man became a living soul. He did not
Oh,
acquire
you missed
a
the breathe
soul.
into the nostrils. He breathed into the nostrils.
Yeah, he did
You
not
missed that.
acquire a soul. He became a soul. That's important later.
Up the
And the
nose.
gods planted a garden eastward in
Actually,
Eden. And
can we pause on that a little bit, because I want to hear about the actual etymology and like the Hebrew of that, like became a living soul, because this is something that is in Mormon theology, that there exists in premortal existence your soul that is organized intelligence, and then you come down to earth to get a body. And you need to have a body in order to become a god, in order to continue this process, this infinite regression process. But that does not make sense with the terminology of became a living soul. That does not work with the premortal existence and Mormon
It does,
theology.
because you say, I'm a real boy now.
But no. So I'm curious: is it became a living soul? Like you allude to that, Aaron. Is that something that is like the language that is strictly taken from Genesis?
yes, in other
yeah,
there are some translations that do put it that way.
yeah. I mean,
Adam
the Hebrew is
became a soul. He didn't acquire a soul. He became one.
yeah. The Hebrew is vayehi ha'adam lenefesh chaya, and the man became a living soul or spirit.
But living would mean mortality, right? And so prior to that, there was no mortality. So he became living because
Yeah.
through mortality. So that's
Um.
how I would see it.
Interesting workaround. Okay.
I want to.
I'm an
quote
apologist.
from-
I'm a Mormon apologist.
yeah,
I really am.
for sure. True
Yeah,
Mormonism.
I want to quote from Westerman's commentary. He writes that this sentence is very important for the biblical understanding of humanity. A person is created as a nefesh chaya, a living soul is not put into one's body. The person as a living being is to be understood as a whole, and any idea that one is made up of body and soul is ruled out. A person
Is
created
what?
as a that one is made up of body and soul is ruled out. A person created as a living being means that one is a person only in one's living state. A person cannot be made into an object of study apart from the living state in which that person exists. An image of humanity, quote unquote, or a doctrine about humanity cannot comprehend the human existence as it is.
Yeah, but it's saying that a man may not be objectified. Doesn't say that about women for obvious reasons.
Well, women were not created yet.
Well, and attractive men know that they are definitely objectified.
Okay. And gods planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there they put the man whose spirit they had put into the body which they had formed.
Somewhere around St. Louis, Missouri, is the whole Jackson County. Yeah, that's what we're talking about right now. Yep.
Adam on
And
Diamond.
out of the ground made the gods to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food.
Which
The tree of life also.
Hold up. So, like, did they put fucking stinging nettle in the Garden of Eden, or was that later? Was that correct? Like, how do we make sense of stinging nettle, or like
Stinging nettle is edible. Stinging nettle is actually
Then poison
edible.
ivy. Justify, apologize away stinging or to the poison ivy for me.
Poison ivy.
Yeah.
That came after the fall. That stuff started growing after the fall.
And then
All
there's
right,
the
so it's
Australian
piecemeal?
stinging tree, but we're not going to be talking about the Australian stinging tree.
Okay.
Noxious
Right.
weeds didn't come until after the fall.
Are you familiar with
should know
this?
No,
Noxious
The
weeds?
slightest
this is new to
contact
me.
with this Australian tree, the slightest contact, if you touch any of the leaves with any part of your arm, for example, just brushing across it, will cause such extreme violent pain that you'll be doubled over and heaving, vomiting from from the effects.
Every herb that is good for food.
Yeah. So we know the Garden of Eden was not in Australia.
Australia, where nature tries to kill you.
Yes. So I'm going to read a couple more comments here. Matt White says, Bryce. But then, wait, no way, we read
No,
that
you
one.
read that one.
Kyler Ashby.
You read that one?
I read that one too.
Yeah.
Did I? That doesn't look
You
familiar.
did. You did. You did.
Okay. All right. Then Matt White, who says, Aaron, are you saying the fruit giving knowledge and evil gave Adam and Eve the heaving shits? Since hence God's warning? Okay. Well, I wasn't suggesting
Montezuma's
that.
revenge.
Yeah. And then Johnny Luca Rogers offers €10 and says, hi, Aaron. Would you be interested in detailing the implications of the rationalizations of Project 2025 in order to inform the general population? Because most people only have a vague idea. I've made 3 videos on that shit so far. I'm going to be doing another one later this evening, and I'm going to make more. So yeah, I'm definitely going to do that. Then next question. What's that?
The evil at the gates, the enemy at the gates. Yeah, Project
Yes.
2025 is fucking terrifying.
And then Mark Agamotto, 1313, who says, it occurs to me, God didn't create man, he fabricated man.
Are you calling the Book of Abraham a fabrication? How dare you, Mark Agamotto? Yeah, but no. So that's very much Mormon theology, that all of these things pre-exist and God just organizes them.
And out of the ground made the gods to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life also in the midst of the garden. And that's important, largely overlooked, but really kind of critically important. There was a tree of eternal life that if you ate of it, you would live forever. But if you did not eat of it, you would not live forever. What the fuck does that mean, you young earth creationist idiots? Also,
and where is the tree now?
It's in Florida, Pensacola, I believe. Also,
it's
in the midst
Missouri.
Of the garden,
how dare you, blasphemer?
Also in the midst of the garden and the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Ooh.
There was a river running out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence, Joseph Smith, figure out what the fuck thence means.
Thence.
You don't say from thence.
From thence.
He does.
It was parted and became into 4 heads.
Whoa.
Became into 4 heads.
Became into 4 heads, so take that.
Yeah, I've seen that video too. And the gods took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to dress it and keep it. To dress it. He put man in the Garden of Eden to dress it.
Yeah.
He's putting little dresses on all the trees and that's the best party frock for you.
Yeah, I think that's where the the book kind of separates from Genesis, because on verse 11 it talks about the names, the names of the rivers, and about the gold of the land. Yeah, the names of the river. And then he said, then verse 15 says, the Lord God took the man and placed him in the Garden of Eden to till it and tend it.
Oh yeah, and that was in Moses, and it's like, that's so weird that they're tilling and tending the garden that's supposed to be this paradise, and you're still slaving away at like fucking tending and
goddamn dandelions.
Yeah, I'm like, I have to tend this goddamn garden.
Commanded the man, saying, of every tree in the garden thou mayest freely eat, for you must eat, for you are an animal and you cannot make your own food like plants can. So your body, your very survival requires that you ingest and digest living cells, so in order to survive, which means that death already exists. And your very existence proves that. But
and that would Does that mean that they were shitting? Because do you shit in paradise? Do people shit in paradise?
Does the Pope shit in his hat?
Uh,
And the gods commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden mayst thou freely eat, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it, because then you would know right from wrong. Then we would be able to punish you. But you know what? We're going to punish you anyway, even when you don't know any better. For in the time that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. Not really, but we're going to
Lie. It was a lie.
Now, I, Abraham, what the fuck are you doing in the story of Adam and Eve? Now, I, Abraham, saw that it was after the Lord's time, which was after the time of Kolob.
Yeah.
Right.
For as yet the gods had not appointed unto Adam his reckoning. And the
Yeah,
gods
we're on-
said,
Kolob Standard Time, baby. The Garden of Eden, a day was 1,000 years.
That's
and
so
the gods
brilliant.
said, we've made male and female for absolutely every other vertebrate except this one guy. That
And
for
those
whatever
lizards.
reason, we gave him testicles and nipples, seemingly to have forgotten something important. What was it? Oh, yes. Let's make a helpmeet for the man, for it is not good that the man should be alone. Therefore, we will form a helpmeet for him, and this way his forearm on his right arm will get some rest. And the gods caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and as he slept, they took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh and the stead thereof.
Whoa.
Because God can wiggle his nose or blink or whatever and just like poof everything else out of absolutely nothing. But for whatever reason,
Do they close up the scar in the Old Testament?
for whatever reason, Rib Girl requires surgery. I don't get it. And
Yeah.
of
They
the
sew it
rib,
up.
which, and
So
of
did-
the
no.
rib,
no, it just said they closed it up. Closed up the flesh at that spot.
and
Yeah.
of the rib, which the gods, multiple, had taken from man, formed they a woman.
Whoa, man.
And brought her under the man, who then exclaimed, whoa, dude.
Whoa, man.
And Adam said,
yeah.
this was bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. Now she shall be called Whoa, man, because she was taken out of man. And then man gets to go in her. Oh, wild.
That's wild.
Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave into his wife, and they shall be one flesh.
Tell me you're a man writing this without telling me you're a man writing this.
Yeah. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and they were not ashamed, for they were being paid righteously for these poses. And out of the ground the gods formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air. And the man says, oh, I get to fuck these too? And the gods brought them unto Adam.
Since Jimmy isn't here, I want to highlight this one. There's a comment in chat from Rob Thibault, who says, this is Eve, created from your flesh, Adam. Now go fuck yourself. That's great.
It's not gay, it's masturbation.
That is great.
And out of the ground the gods formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see that he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that should be the name thereof. Well, that's going to be a panda bear, and that's going to be a koala bear, and I don't care that they're not bears. Fuck it. They all look like land monster, sea monster, whatever. And Adam gave names to all the cattle
Betsy
All of
and
them?
Bethany
Betsy,
and
Old Glory,
Martha.
Gertrude. And to all of the fowl of the air, chickadee, tootsie.
That's flighty, that's
That's
flappy,
Mindy.
that's squeaky.
Kitty. Oh, meow.
And for Adam there was found an helpmeet for him. And her name was Anne. Anne
I mean,
Helpmeet.
it
Yes,
should be
Eve
noted
and a
that
helpmeet. So
it should be noted that these two verses are verses 19 and 20 in Genesis. So it's he transposed between the two sections because
whoa.
the last few the previous verses are verses 21 through 25, and and the last two verses are 19 through 20. So for some reason he decided to transpose between the two sections.
Nice. The
And
real order.
if we are ready to move into a facsimile from the Book of Abraham, apparently, will you shut the fuck up, dog? Apparently, they had faxes back then, and the image that is shown, it looks like somebody's got a great big old carving knife, and they're going to extend the separation of this guy's legs up to at least his solar plexus.
This may be a
Oh,
situation
so
where it might help if Peter actually shares on the screen the facsimiles that we're talking about here, because this was printed with the original Book of Abraham in the church periodical, The Times and Seasons, so that people would know, hey, these are authentic Egyptian papyri scrolls from which Joseph Smith translated the Book of Abraham that is being published alongside these facsimiles. So not only were these like part of the papyri, but somebody had to go in and create a printing plate that was reflective of the actual images on the papyri. You know, somebody sitting in there with a papyri next to it, with a printing plate, and making like little symbols and little whatnots into a picture plate that could be printed on every copy of the Times and Seasons itself. So like, printing pictures was a difficult task in the 1840s, but this was so important to the Book of Abraham that they went through the painstaking process of printing these pictures.
If you have a link,
most
Bryce,
religious scriptures,
if you have a link,
most
Bryce,
religious
I can
scriptures
pick it.
don't go to the trouble of.
Wait a
Oh,
minute.
sorry.
Most religious scriptures don't go through the trouble of producing pictures.
Yeah,
but these pictures really could, or these books really could benefit from some illustration.
yeah, absolutely. And so
All right, I'm going to read a couple more comments before I let Peter go on with what he was about to say. Johnny
I'm
Luca
done.
offers 5 R and Raw memberships. Bruno Zygerts offers $5 Californian and says, and Adam named all the dinosaurs that wouldn't be found for centuries.
yeah, right.
Yep.
All right, go ahead, please.
I wanted to add to that that's why I've been so confused with this too, because in my version of it, as we go through, these illustrations are actually put in as almost a narrative guide to where they came from, where it seems like what's happening with you guys is that it's all at the end of the whole thing, right? Or do you have 3? Okay.
And
So
as they
mine
were
is
originally printed, is closer to what you have there, Gazalem, that they were printed originally with the facsimile and the translation and the facsimile translation, whereas what we just read was all of the translation, and now we have the 3 facsimiles that are kind of presented as like an appendix. But no, that's not how it was originally printed.
That's why I keep going, how come we're skipping the facsimiles?
Yeah. So yeah, Peter, if you want to throw up facsimile number 1, we can discuss that.
I'm working on it. Just a minute.
Okay, very cool. So this facsimile is interesting because it connotes a mummification ritual, where the priest with the jackal head actually extracts the organs from the body, and Gazalem has a picture there, right? So until we can see a better, full screen picture of it. So what's interesting is, as you're seeing on the picture there, the outstretched hand holding the knife and the cross hatching of the body, this was actually all a chunk that was missing from the papyri when they unrolled it, that was degraded over time. So this was up to the liberty of Joseph Smith to fill in the material that was missing from this original papyri scroll. So you have like the two hands that are up like this of the number 2 figure, which is Abraham. And this is the connoting where Abraham was brought to an altar and attempted to be sacrificed, just like he did with his son, right? Yeah, there you go. So you can see it in Gazalem. They had to actually fill in the portion that you're seeing right here. And what's interesting is the two hands that you're seeing held up right here are actually the wings of a bird that was next to that other bird in the original hypocephalus. And the head that is missing from the priest that's holding the knife was actually a jackal head, an Anubis head, basically. So obviously Joseph Smith did not know these things. So he just drew in his own version of what he thinks would fill out, would complete the papyrus from what was missed.
And
But
this
it's not
head's so
accurate.
funny because it looks like a weird smiley face that he put on here too, which is what's hilarious. Like the original picture, he drew it in. It looks so funny.
I have it on screen right now.
Yeah, the top left there.
I have it on screen right now. The link you gave me.
Yeah. So number 3, the priest, the head that you're seeing there is not anything like the priest, the head that Joseph Smith drew. The Joseph Smith head is like a stick figure smiley face emoji almost. It's pretty hilarious. So yeah, this is all facsimile 1. You can see where he translates. If you scroll down a little bit there, Peter, you can see the actual translations, as Joseph Smith wrote the translations, what each thing connotes. Number 1 is that bird that's on the bird symbol, and that is the angel of the Lord. Number 2, which is Abraham fastened upon an altar. Number 3, the idolatrous priest Elkanah, which Joseph Smith just made up, attempting to offer up Abraham as a sacrifice. No, that's not at all what this common funerary text means. These all have meanings that are well understood in modern Egyptology and were beginning to be understood in Joseph Smith's time. He just made up his own thing, and the people who ran with it were Mormons. The people who are like, no, you're making up bullshit, we're not Mormons. It's pretty simple as that. So yeah, that's facsimile number 1. If you want to go to the next one, Peter, we can see facsimile number 2 and the penis of Min. I see you grinning there. All right, so I think this was missed when the Book of Abraham was first introduced on the show, but if you look at figure number 7, which is kind of on the right-hand side, about a little bit further down below midway, I don't know if you're able to zoom in on the 7 there, Peter, but you can see the erect penis sticking out of what looks like the chest of the fertility god Min. Scroll down a little bit there. Yeah, so if you mouse over the number 7 and move up just a tiny bit from it, you can see the priest is actually sitting. So this is an inverted image. So this hypocephalus actually in its original form was inverted, and Joseph Smith unwittingly inverted it himself, but it used to be the other direction. You can see a sitting priest and something that looks like it's sticking out of his chest. That's his dick. That's a fertility god, Min. And this whole hypocephalus, like everything on here means something within modern Egyptology, but Joseph Smith, being Joseph Smith, saw something and just fabricated everything whole cloth. And if you scroll down a little bit there, Peter, you can see the explanation that was attendant with this, which also coincides with Abraham 2 or Abraham 3. No, Abraham 2, because it's talking about Kolob and the signifying the first creation, nearest the celestial or the residence of God, first in government, the last pertaining to the measurement of time. And that was all articulated out in Abraham 2.
So we actually have pictures, which is so funny because you'll see the figure and it's this weird, like, quadruple-headed freaking, like, goat or something with monkeys on both sides of it. And it's like, this one's Kolob and this one is
yeah,
Jehovah. And, it's wild.
Yeah, so you can have a lot of fun just looking at the hypocephalus and matching the number with the explanation, because and then pick up Rob Rittner's book. Rob Rittner is an Egyptologist who led the charge of criticizing the church apologists' take on the Book of Abraham and all of the dodges that they were making about this. He published a compendium. I can't remember the name of that. Gazalem, do you have the name of that off the top of your head?
The Joseph Smith Egyptian Papyri, a complete edition.
There you go. So that was a compilation of essays from scholars and Rob Rittner himself, who just basically did a single book, total drag out smackdown argument against the Book of Abraham. It is the best book about the Book of Abraham and the way that Egyptology approaches the Book of Abraham as just like, this is nonsense. This is bullshit. That this is clearly a fabrication of Joseph Smith's mind. And yeah, it's a very good book, very informative book. But if you don't want to read a book, you want to watch videos on it, Dan Vogel has an entire like fucking 10-part series that just takes down the Book of Abraham systematically, point by point. And he talks extensively about all of the hypocephali, all of the translations. He talks about the marks that are made in the grammar, the Egyptian language, the Gale notebook that we talked about last episode. He talks about all of this and just shows how much bullshit this really is. It's all so fascinating, and it helps you understand why the vast majority of people who leave for historical reasons in the church leave because the Book of Abraham. This is their first thing that they study, and they were like, "What is this? How does this?" Tell me about the history of this thing. And they read it and they're like, wow, this is not what it claims to be. And this is scripture in the Mormon church. So therefore the Mormon church must be false. Yeah.
So what was the means of cognitive enhancement that that Joe and company employed in coming up with these images?
So these images specifically are taken straight from the papyrus. So they didn't, in my opinion, they didn't use any cognitive, facilitators or catalysts in order to amplify what was here. Like this was taken straight off of the papyri, and they just filled in the missing portions. But clearly, like as we're reading through this is clearly just yet another rewriting of Genesis from Joseph Smith. He'd done it so many times up to this point. He was just going to go about and rewrite Genesis once again that incorporates his adapted theology. But to get to the crux of your question, yes, I think that Joseph Smith was on psychedelics for a vast majority of his theological innovations. Anytime that we have like the lectures on faith, and we have the School of the Prophets, and we have Joseph Smith with a ring of his most trusted dudes, and they're prophesying late into the night and into the early morning hours of every day, I think they were using psychedelics.
You know what
I know I showed this already, but that's a good version of a really good version of the fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
I don't think that Bryce is reading this in the spirit.
Well, birds of a feather, right?
So one thing we didn't mention too about Mim, which is right up here.
Oh, you have the removed penis one.
Yeah, his phallus did disappear for a time, and then it came back.
They recognized that was a penis in Mormon scripture, and they were like, "Hey, we're gonna remove the
take
phallus." But in modern day versions, they've reinstated the penis of men.
And it literally just looks like a crazy Audi belly button or something, like really, because it comes from out of the stomach. It's not like
it's abstract art of the time,
There are some good versions. Oh, I thought they were in here of the Jekyll head too, of what it looks like.
The Anubis head.
That picture, with the Anubis head, but
yeah.
Oh, this one's really cool.
Yeah, I was going to ask Peter to go to the third facsimile because that shows the Congo line and highlights the extreme racism and white supremacy of Joseph Smith as well.
Can you see that the slave guy?
No, so so what you're seeing there is an actual version of this. But the facsimile, I believe, was another fill-in from missing papyri, and they filled it in as a black person. And notably, you will say that Joseph Smith labeled figure number 6. If you scroll down a little bit there, Peter, this person is Olimla, a slave belonging to the prince. Abraham is reasoning upon the principles of astronomy in the king's court. And no, that was actually a priest in the original papyri. It was not a slave. So that's fun. Good job, Joseph Smith, white supremacist asshole. Good stuff. Good times. Anyway, those are the facsimiles.
This one is really good. Like if you go back to the main screen, I don't know if anybody's seen that version of the facsimile. Can you see all the characters?
Yeah.
Where's Waldo?
Yeah.
I dig it.
You guys
I dig
aren't.
I dig
Come
it.
on.
But where's Waldo?
That
Priest.
took you guys way too long.
I was mistaken. Clearly. That's a where's Waldo. Yeah.
Way better than the Anubis changed into a black slave.
Sadly, the next chapter after this is quite long, and we're not going to be able to get to it today because I do have another show that I have to jump onto. So I can't do 55 verses to continue this, much as I would like to, because this was fun. All right.
Let me look
So-
here real quick. So Joseph Smith Matthew is next. What's after that? Is it Joseph Smith
History.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I can do the Matthew thing. I really hate the fucking New Testament so bad. And then like Joseph Smith's version of the New Testament, I don't know if I can do next week because just the subject matter.
Now, are we halfway through the book, or are we further than that?
Way more than
that.
halfway. Way more.
We're almost done.
Yeah. So we have
Okay.
this one extract from Matthew, which is 2.5 or 1.5 chapters of Matthew. And then we have the Joseph Smith history, which we're going to spend a load of time with, dear viewers. And then we have the Articles of Faith after that, which the Articles of Faith have already been done on this show. So I don't see any reason to do them again.
No, we should do them again because the reason why and we didn't go through it is because originally it was the 14 Articles of Faith.
Was it?
And so maybe
aware
we
of
should
this.
read the 14 Articles of Faith instead. Yeah.
Huh. I didn't know
They
that.
took out a bunch of stuff. It was originally
Okay.
in the Book of Commandments originally. So maybe we can read them side by side so we can see how much they differed. And I still vote for the King Follett stuff. We should read King Follett for like really. It talks about the Nolium and all of that stuff. All this stuff.
It talks about
cosmology.
linoleum.
Actually, no, I
No.
could, to be honest, I would love to
Nolan.
hear Tomer reading through King Follett. I think he would have a boatload of fun because there's a
King
whole bunch
what?
of Hebrew in it, and like Hebrew and like German translation of the Hebrew, and it's outrageous. It's
Wait,
bad.
in what?
It's called the King Follett Discourse. It's like the last sermon that Joseph Smith, the last big well-known sermon that Joseph gave right before he was assassinated, and it's like the most esoteric Mormon theology, and he wraps and interweaves in a whole bunch of German and Hebrew and like the translations of these and like, you know, Old Testament terms and clearly misunderstanding the terms, and it's fascinating.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. So we're going to have to save that for next week. And I want to thank you again, Bryce, for recommending that we do this book, because I have had fun with this. I've had more fun with this, certainly, than I did with the Book of Mormon.
Yeah,
Oh,
same
hell
here,
yeah.
for sure. It's way more fun.
Yeah. All right. So see you guys next week.
Yeah.
I think
Bye-bye.
I think there's one
Peter's
more chat to read.
Oh
but-
yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, yes. SC says, you know how awesome Mormonism would be if Adam got his asshole cut off? Because that's the scientifically accurate way humans develop.
What? Excuse you? What?
I don't get it.
I
don't
think
really
it's I think he's referring to the creation of Eve. Because
The rib.
Was Eve an asshole? I thought she was a
no,
rib.
all humans when they develop, The first thing to
Oh,
develop.
deuterostomes.
I just
Yes.
I said that.
Yes. All right.
Great comment.
Since Peter doesn't pick up on clues with a whole lot of subtlety, goodbye.